Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a pretty radical idea about why some of society's biggest, most stubborn problems just never seem to go away. The theory suggests we're not just using the wrong tools to fix them, we might not even be looking at the right problem in the first place.
So, let's start with something we all see. A serious issue comes up, we create new laws, we launch campaigns, we punish the offenders, and yet the problem persists. It makes you wonder, right? Are we even aiming at the right target?
Well, the source material we're looking at today makes a really bold claim. It says that all these methods, the punishments, the direct interventions, they're basically just emergency first aid, They might stop the bleeding for a minute, but they do absolutely nothing to heal the actual wound underneath.
Okay, so if our whole approach is just treating symptoms, what exactly is the disease? This is where the whole analysis really pivots from the obvious stuff to something much, much deeper.
According to this viewpoint, things like harassment aren't just random bugs in the system. They're actually features. They are the natural, totally expected outcome of a society that's running on a kind of flawed, core programming. It's like we're totally focused on the cough while completely ignoring the deep-seated infection that's causing it.
So let's get into what this source says is that root infection. Now, it's a pretty challenging concept, and it's described as a society that's operating on an animalistic level.
Okay, before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about people being literal animals. Not at all. It's about a social paradigm. It describes an environment where the default setting for everyone is pure self-interest. That I only know myself mentality. And the main way people interact is by finding fault, blaming others, blaming the system, blaming the nation, instead of actually building each other up.
So, in this kind of social environment, the source argues these negative behaviors aren't a surprise. They're the logical conclusion. It kind of makes sense, right? When a culture's foundation is literally built on tearing things down, it's almost inevitable that people are going to start tearing each other down too.
So, if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? Well, I guarantee it's not what you'd expect. The source actually uses this central metaphor to explain the whole strategy.
This is the key phrase, the central idea for the entire solution. The core idea here is that you can't fix a problem by tackling it head-on. It's like you can't fix a tangled, thorny bush just by trimming its branches. To really solve the problem, you have to go tend to the healthy tree on the other side of the garden. You have to work on the problem indirectly.
All right, let's break this down. The East is the problem we can all see plain as day. The harassment, the conflict, all of that. The West is that hidden foundation, that societal paradigm we were just talking about. The strategy is to completely stop trying to fix the East directly. Instead, you pour all your energy into changing the West, and you do it quietly, almost in secret, so the problem doesn't even know what's happening.
And this is the brilliant part of the logic. Think about it. When you attack a problem head-on, it puts up its defenses. It fights back. But if you change the fundamental environment, the very soil that the problem grows in, it just withers and dies, because the conditions it needed to survive are just gone.
So, how does this abstract idea actually work in the real world? How do you change the West? Well, the source points to a really radical redefinition of what it even means to serve society. Okay, on the left, you see the standard model we're all used to, giving people things, donations, handouts, which requires constant funding and resources. The source argues this is just another temporary fix. But on the right, that's the alternative, creating something of true value, knowledge, systems, education that actually empowers people.
So here's the crucial point. Instead of just handing out aid, you create educational content or a system that is so effective, so valuable that society naturally wants to support it. It generates its own economy. It's not a charity that just consumes resources. It's a value engine that creates them, empowering people to solve their own problems.
All right, let's tie this all together. How does creating self-sustaining educational content solve something as huge as sexual harassment? It feels like a massive leap, I know, but it's all about the causal chain. Here it is. This is the roadmap the source presents. You start by building these new models of true service. These models teach and embody a totally new way of living, one that's based on mutual support and creating value. As more and more people adopt this mindset, the whole societal paradigm begins to shift away from that animalistic focus on self and blame. And in this new, healthier social environment, the old problems, well, they just can't thrive anymore, because the very conditions that allowed them to grow, blame, self-interest, a lack of mutual respect, have been completely replaced.
So this whole explainer really leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. It suggests that our relentless focus on fighting the symptoms might be the very thing that's preventing us from ever winning the war. The argument is that the most effective form of social change isn't a direct fight at all, but a quiet, fundamental rebuilding of how we relate to and serve one another.